What's going on, guys? So I wanted to do something a little bit different today and basically go on a comprehensive guide to macronutrients and micronutrients. I've been requested by a couple of people to do something like this, so let's go ahead and dive in. We have 3 macronutrients. We have carbohydrates, which are 4 calories per gram. We have fat, which is 9 calories per gram. And we have protein, which is 4 calories per gram. And there is one other macronutrient, a lot of people don't talk about it, and it's alcohol. Now, alcohol is actually about 7 calories per gram. No one really mentions it much because it's not one of the macronutrients that you would normally eat every day or drink every day, and your body digests alcohol a lot differently than carbohydrates, fat, or protein. For most of you, the highest consumed macronutrient is carbohydrates because carbohydrates are needed in the largest amounts out of any of the 3 macronutrients. Your diet should be anywhere from 40 to 65% carbs. Some people will fall close to 40% or even slightly lower, and some other people will need much higher carbs, 65 to 70%. That also will be highly predicated whether you are on a bulk, so a caloric surplus, or a cut, caloric deficit. If you're on a cut, your carbohydrate ratio or your carbohydrate percentage to the rest of your macronutrients is going to be much lower. If you're on a bulk, it's most likely going to be much higher. Carbohydrates are our body's main source of fuel. They are one of the easiest sources of fuel for our body to break down and absorb. Carbohydrates are needed for many bodily functions. You need carbs for central nervous system, the kidneys, the brain, the muscles, even the heart to function properly. Carbs can be stored in the muscle, and you want this. They can also be stored in the liver and later used as energy. Carbs are even important when it comes to intestinal health and waste elimination. The highest quantities of carbs are found in food sources such as starchy foods like grains and potatoes, fruits, milk, and yogurt. Other foods like vegetables, beans, nuts, seeds, and cottage cheese contain carbohydrates, but in much smaller amounts. Long story short, guys, you need carbs. Carbs are your body's natural main source of fuel. You have simple carbs like sugars, then you have slightly more complex carbs like fruit, and you have your starchy complex carbs like sweet potato and brown rice and oatmeal, which those are the carbs that you should eat most of the time. Those are the carbs that will fill you up, give you the most bang for your buck. There are tons of different types of carbs. You have monosaccharides. Once you get off of the simple sugars, monosaccharides, you go to double chain carbs or double molecule carbs, which are disaccharides. Once we graduate on to a bigger carb with a bigger molecular breakdown, we graduate to the complex carb, or you could call it a polysaccharide. There are tons of different polysaccharides, guys, but the one that I want to talk about is starch. Starch is basically the complex carb. It is barley, it's oats, it's brown rice, it's quinoa, it's rye. It is cuscus, wild rice. You also have roots like sweet potato, parsnips, white potato, rutabaga, yams, as well as lentils like brown, red, and green, peas, black-eyed, split yellow, split green, and whole green. There are a ton of different complex carbs, guys, but the point is that a good bit of your diet in a bulking phase should be complex carbs. Now, depending on your metabolism in a cutting phase, more of your carbs should come from either vegetables like broccoli and leaves like spinach and even romaine lettuce and tomato and cucumber. The point is, guys, when you're on a cut, when you're on lower macros, you want your carbs to come from higher volume foods that have less carbs and higher fiber to fill you up. When you're bulking and trying to gain weight, you want to eat less of that and you eat more complex carbs so that you can eat more food, get more carbs in. And like I said a second ago, that completely depends on your metabolism, your body type, and your overall goals and how quickly you want to hit your overall goals. Let's move on to protein. Oh, but before we move on to protein, let me add that there is a carbohydrate called fiber. I'm sure you guys know what fiber is, but I'm not really going to go into exactly all the different types of fiber, all that sort of stuff, but let's just say that you need about 1 gram of fiber per 100 calories to make sure that your digestion is on par. So if you're eating 2,000 calories, hit about 20 grams of fiber. If you're eating 3,000 calories, hit about 30 grams of fiber. If you're a little bit more or a little bit less than that, you should be safe, but try to stay within that range of 1 gram of fiber per 100 calories. And we have protein. Protein is very important for us bodybuilders and physique builders. It is the macronutrient that allows our bodies to rebuild every cell in every tissue when it is broken down. Now, the USDA recommends 10 to 35% of your diet come from protein. I recommend towards the higher end of the spectrum or mid range of the spectrum. Again, this is going to depend on your total macronutrients. I don't think that protein should ever be a percentage. Protein needs to be based off of your body weight and not a percentage. For protein, I recommend anywhere from 0.8 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight. Now, this depends yet again on if you're bulking or cutting. When you're cutting, I recommend more protein than when you're bulking to make sure that you don't lose muscle. And also, protein has a higher thermogenic effect than both carbohydrates and fat. Literally about 30% of the food that you eat in protein sources is burned off. Also, protein is a little more satiating than both fat and carbs. So protein is kind of like a double whammy in terms of helping you lose more weight, burn more fat, because of the thermic effect of protein is higher than both carbs and fat, at being at about 30% of what you eat in protein gets burned off as fuel. So if you're cutting, I recommend about 1 gram per pound of body weight to 1.2 grams per pound of body weight. That just depends on how hungry you get and how aggressive you are on your cut. When bulking, if you're someone that has trouble gaining weight, meaning it's harder for you to gain weight, I recommend you stick towards the 0.8 to 0.9 grams per pound of body weight. The 0.8 to 0.9 grams of protein per pound of body weight, as eating too much protein, if you're someone that considers yourself a hard gainer, is going to make gaining mass a whole lot harder for you. When you're bulking, you don't need as much protein to grow. Ironically enough, when you're cutting, your body actually synthesizes more protein. Your body can do more with the protein that you give it. When you're bulking, it's more about getting a lot of carbs, getting more fat. As long as you're hitting at least your body weight when you're bulking, you're pretty much good. So when you're bulking, it's sort of based more off of, is it easier for you to gain weight? If you're someone that, like me, gains fat easier, then it's better to lean towards the high side of protein to help you become more full, more satiated, and more of a lean bulk. If you're someone that's a hard gainer, then you need less protein, more carbs, so that you don't get as full and your thermic effect on the protein is lower and you're eating more carbs, less protein. Protein does a lot of things. It literally rebuilds your hair follicles to your skin, contributes to all of your organs. It's important for your testosterone. If you're a girl, your estrogen. It's important for all of those little hormones going on, important for a lot of bodily enzymes. It prevents you from losing lean body mass when you're cutting, and it's what rebuilds your body when you're bulking, what allows you to gain muscle. Without protein, you will not gain muscle. You will just break down muscle and not rebuild it. So we need protein. Protein is a vital part of human life. Carbohydrates, contrary to popular belief, are not. We can live without carbohydrates. Now, the top forms of protein, so the most molecularly complete forms of protein are: number 1, whey; number 2, eggs; number 3, milk; number 4, casein. And chicken sort of ties with casein. They're pretty close. I'd say number 5, beef. Well, heck, honestly, guys, casein protein, beef protein, chicken protein, and fish protein seriously are really, really close as far as their biological value. Biological value meaning how much of the protein that your body can absorb. I recommend to get most of your protein from chicken, fish, and beef. Whey is a supplement. Obviously, whey is still, it's a food, basically. It's just a processed protein supplement food. Whey is good to supplement in to get your protein to where it needs to be, but since it's a processed food, I like to keep things about 80% whole food and 20% processed food for energy balance, and so that you feel good and so that you're healthy guy. So guys, we have one more macronutrient, and do you know what it is? It's fat. Yeah, it's fat. Here's the interesting thing, guys. You can live without carbohydrates. Not eating any fat eventually will not be good for you. You could literally just stop eating carbs and only eat fat and protein, and you would survive. Your body would adapt. You cannot, however, start eating only carbs and protein and drop fat. You will slowly get diseases and bad things will happen. Your body needs fat. Your body needs good fat. Fat is the overlooked macronutrient that people often crucify by saying fat makes you fat. Fat does not make you fat. Eating too much food makes you fat, whether it's protein, fat, or carbs, or a mix of just too much calories in general. Fat is a more flexible macronutrient than protein, but you do need to make sure in any case that you're getting enough fat in your diet. Your fat intake should be anywhere between 20 to 35% of your total calories for the day. I recommend aiming towards the middle of the set point, around 25 to 30% of your total daily calories. I would never recommend you to drop lower than 25 or 0.25 grams of fat per pound of body weight, and there really isn't any reason to ever venture above 0.75 grams per pound of body weight. Again, just as protein, your fat intake needs to be based off of your body weight, your age, your gender, your body type, and goals. So here are some things that fat does for you. Growth and development, energy production. Fat is the most concentrated source of energy. Dum dum dum. Fat is responsible for absorbing certain vitamins like vitamin A, D, E, K, and even carotenoids. So if you don't have fat, you're not going to be absorbing your vitamins. Providing the essential cushions for the organs and joints, maintenance of cell membranes. Fat is the macronutrient that provides taste, consistency, and stability to foods. Now, we have a bunch of different types of fats. I'm not really going to go into what all they do, but the healthy fats that you need to be getting are monounsaturated fats, polyunsaturated fats, omega-3 fatty acids, and omega-6 fatty acids. Stay away from the trans fats. Saturated fats, contrary to popular belief, are not bad for you. The saturated fats that are in animal foods, they're not bad for you. They can add up really quickly and, screw up your cut if it is that you're cutting. So I recommend you get the majority of your fats from polyunsaturated fats, monounsaturated fats, omega-3 fatty acids, omega-6 fatty acids, and MCTs, medium chain triglycerides. You'll find that in things like coconut oil and palm oil. So if it fits your macros is literally based off of macronutrients. It's not really like a diet or a fad diet if you want to think about it that way. There are 3 different main ways of manipulating how you eat psychologically and structurally. You have meal plans, which is a set amount of meals, set timing, set food variety, and all that sort of stuff, and you just eat the same thing or close to the same thing about every day. Usually about 6 meals a day, eating every 2.5 to 3 hours, but there are different meal plans. You can basically build a meal plan around any philosophy, any ideas. But yeah, you have meal plans. You have intuitive eating. Intuitive eating basically is based off of using your body's natural signals when you're hungry, eating to about 80 to 90% full, having a good relationship with food, all that sort of stuff. That is intuitive eating. You're not counting anything. You're not prepping anything. You're just eating sparingly, basically. Eating things that are the natural foods that are meant for us to eat, like whole foods, but eating sparingly. Then you have, if it fits your macros, or flexible dieting, which you have your fats, your carbs, your protein. You pick 3 numbers. So you pick a fat number, a carb number, and a protein number for you to hit at the end of the day. This is going to be based off of your goals. And so like I said, if you're cutting 1 to 1.2 grams of protein per lean body mass or per body mass. Damn it. Can't talk right this second. Your fat should be, when cutting, I would say anywhere from 0.3 to 0.5 grams per pound of body weight. Your carbohydrates, that's going to be completely based off your metabolism. It's really hard. I can't just shoot out a carb number for anyone unless I'm actually coaching them and I hear their metabolic story, how their metabolism is. I mean, you could have one guy that starts out dieting on 300 carbs at 150 and loses 20 pounds and gets down to 130. Then you could have another guy that starts at 200 pounds and has to be at the same carbs, and they lose weight at the same way. The 200-pound guy goes down to 180. The 150-pound guy goes down to 130 on the same carbs, same macronutrients. So guys, you really need to play around with your carbs. Typically, if your metabolism is higher, I would start around a higher amount of carbs if you're trying to cut. So if your metabolism you think is higher, I would start around double to 2.5 grams per pound of body weight for carbs when dieting. If your metabolism is lower, I would try to start more close to 1.5 to 1.75 grams of carbs per pound of body weight. 2 grams of carbs per pound of body weight at the most. One of the most powerful things that I follow when cutting, something I'm following right now, is intermittent fasting, which basically means you have a small fasting window which holds you off from eating food so that you have the rest of the day to just kind of really enjoy yourself. So I wake up around 7, 7:30, sometimes 8, at the very latest 10, and I have a large coffee with fat-free, sugar-free Coffee Mate Italian sweet creamer. It's 8 grams of fat, I think about 9 carbs, and that's it. I put about a serving of stevia in it. So you're looking at, for my first drink of the day, you're looking at about 10 carbs and 8 grams of fat. I don't actually eat any food until about 1. If I wake up at 10, like 2, 3. If I wake up at 7, about 12:31. But I do, however, drink a giant coffee when I get up with the creamer that I just told you about. I make a gallon of flavored water. I use Jolly Rancher sugar-free water flavoring and put like 2 packets in a gallon of water. I drink that. I make 1 to 2 green teas through the first half of the day with about a tablespoon of stevia. That keeps me full, guys. That keeps me full. So around 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, I have like a giant amount of food to eat. So I eat, what I like to do with the first big meal of the day is just have a salad meal. So cucumbers, tomatoes, lettuce, spinach, chicken, and maybe a handful of strawberries or blueberries. Literally, guys, you can eat like 300 grams of strawberries, which is like a whole giant bowl for like 25 carbs. Blueberries are very low calorie as well. So I recommend for your first big meal of the day, when on a calorie deficit, on if it's your macros, if you're running intermittent fasting like me, to be a giant salad with, like fat-free Italian zesty dressing like you've seen on my past video. Maybe some balsamic vinegar, maybe some apple cider vinegar, and just the trough salad, guys. I call this the filler salad. It gets you full until later in the day, and then the awesome thing is that ends up, 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock. You have all this freaking food to eat. So after you work out, you basically can eat a feast, whatever you want, as long as it's about 75%, to 80% whole, healthy foods. Before I go to bed, I always like to really enjoy myself. Usually I have a complete cookie with fat-free whipped cream, sugar-free chocolate syrup, and sugar-free breakfast syrup on top of the cookie. Sometimes I'll put fat-free ice cream on top. But yeah, guys, that's how I do my macros. It's really convenient for me because I only actually have to count my macros really twice. It's really easy to enter in the coffee in the morning and the stevia and all that sort of stuff. And then one thing about fitting in macros, guys, it's nice to have the variety and be able to kind of eat whatever you want. But at the same time, you do need to, still eat like a bodybuilder, eat like someone that's trying to build a physique, and eat 80% whole, clean, quote unquote, nutrient dense foods. And last but not least, guys, micronutrients. I had a guy ask me about macronutrients and micronutrients. Micronutrients, guys, are just vitamins, antioxidants, amino acids, your smaller fatty acids, that sort of stuff. So the micro part of the macro. And basically, you're going to get your micronutrients if you eat fruits, you eat leaves, you eat vegetables, you eat whole, high quality proteins, you eat your good omega-3, omega-6, MCT fatty acids. You're going to get your micronutrients. I wouldn't worry too much about what they are. I mean, it's really interesting. Guys, you know what? I'm writing a book right now. I mention it a lot. I'm going to go in depth about micronutrients in the book, about macronutrients, about everything I'm talking about now. I'm going to go way, way, way more in depth. The book's going to be about 500 pages, about 100,000 to 120,000 words. It's going to be out in the next couple months, guys. Check the book out. I'm done with this talk. I hope you guys learned something. Please press the like button. Seriously, go over there and press it, with your clicker on the mouse, and press the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. Comment. Let me know if you learned anything. And all love, guys. I'll see you next time. Along with the video, guys, I've listed my Fitness Pal hacks and the 21 weight loss myths, 2 small ebooks that I wrote. They're listed in the description box below. They will link you to the Amazon link, where they are completely 100% free, no catches or anything. They're free to you guys. Just click the links. It'll take you to my Amazon page where my books are, and you can have both of these books for free.